What the hell was that?
It's a trap!
Yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. I was gonna make a script about this, but I got nothing for this one. I'm just gonna come out and say it. The new live action Pinocchio movie on Disney Plus is probably hands down the worst live action Disney film I've seen to date. And I am not even joking. Like, I've seen The Lion King, and I have made it clear that I could not stand the live action Lion King, and I will never watch that film ever again. But when I say that this is probably the worst live action Disney adaptation I've watched, not even the worst Disney adaptation, when I say this is the worst Pinocchio adaptation I ever sat down and watched, I'm not joking. That's not a joke. Like, I'm literally, like, I have to sit down and give my honest take about it, because I tried to watch it a second time and I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. Like, literally, the first time when I watched this, I literally went into this like with a full with the same expectation I would when I go to any other film. When I go to see a Marvel movie, when I go to see a Disney movie, when I go to see any movie in general, I literally sit down and watch it with a clear mind and just a middle ground expectation. And just like that, this film for me just got worse and worse and worse the more I sat down and watched it. Like, I couldn't even begin to try to understand what they were thinking when they went ahead and made this, which this isn't anything new, because Disney has been pushing out a lot of live action based movies that are based off of their popular fairy tales and their popular movies, right? Because this whole thing blew out of proportion when we got Maleficent, and then next thing you know, we had Cinderella, and then we got like Beauty and the Beast, and then it went on and on to the point where we got Mulan, we got Cruella, we got Maleficent 2, and now we're getting the live action Little Mermaid. But when it came to this live action Pinocchio, oh my god, oh Jesus, I did not think it was going to get harder for me to sit through this movie, especially since we had a multitude of Pinocchio movies that have come out in like the last 2 years alone, especially one with Pauly Shore, and as soon as the trailer hit, that shit became the new internet meme for a good hot minute.
Father, when can I leave to be on my own? I've got the whole world to see.
And now, when this movie came out, I didn't even know Disney was making it. Like, this thing came out of left field for me, because I was like, wait, Disney is making another live action? And it's Pinocchio? And it's on Disney Plus? I don't know where we're at with this Pinocchio film, because it's just, not even with the CGI, everything about this movie was just, it's like the magic was just sucked completely out of it. It literally made me want to go back and watch the 1996 Adventures of Pinocchio movie. So, if you're familiar with the story, there's an old man named Geppetto, and, you know, he makes a puppet and calls it Pinocchio. He wishes upon a star for the puppet to be real, so he can have a son of his own. And then a blue fairy comes by, makes that wish, Pinocchio comes to life, and hijinks ensue. And that's the whole point of Pinocchio from his inception in his original book. Pinocchio was made as a cautionary tale for what happened if kids continue to be little shits for the remainder of their life, which is probably why the book is more darker in tone than the original animated Disney film. So the first thing I want to talk about is the dialogue. So the dialogue drones on, and it just continues to just keep on going and going. Like, I have no problem when the dialogue is too long as it adds more to the story and it keeps the story going. But it doesn't. It just feels like these characters are just, you know, just going back and forth with each other and just throwing exposition out for one another. To give you an example, when the Blue Fairy makes her appearance, she explains that she's here because Geppetto made a wish. Okay, ask Jiminy, who's this puppet? He says, oh, this is Pinocchio. He's the boy that Geppetto made. Why would Geppetto make a wooden puppet? Well, it was the fact that Geppetto wanted a son of his own. Well, why doesn't he make a son an old-fashioned way? Well, I guess the tools that he has in the shop is all that he knows. And then Pinocchio chimes in, am I a real boy? Well, not exactly, Pinocchio. You're a magical puppet. And he's like, oh, well, when do I get to be a real boy? Well, you can only be a real boy if you do this, that, and the other thing.
Get on with it. Yes, get on with it.
The dialogue was just droning on and on and on and on, and it just didn't get to the point. Like, as far as I can remember, in the animated version, the Blue Fairy just shows up, she just makes the wish, Pinocchio comes to life, and she explains to Pinocchio what he has to do in order to be a real boy. She gives Jiminy Cricket the job to be his conscience and tells him that it's his job to make sure that Pinocchio stays in line. And the scene didn't even take all that long. It literally told him and the audience what we need to know. Pinocchio wants to be a real boy. He's got to prove himself. Jiminy has to be his conscience. He's got to make sure that Pinocchio is on the right track. Boom, done. That's all you need. But it was like they just kept going back and forth and back and forth. And I'm like, can you get on with it, please? And then the next thing that irritated the shit out of me was the CGI. And oh my god, the CGI was terrible on Pinocchio. For Cleo, they tried to make her look like her original animated form, which it wasn't good, wasn't bad either. And then for Figaro, it was alright. For Jiminy, it was like terrifying to look at. Like, I get it, you wanted to look like his original animated counterpart, and it didn't pan out well because it's hard for me to look at. And then you got Pinocchio.
Oh, okay.
You know it's bad when I have to say that the puppet that is supposed to be real looks deader than the animated one. Or for that matter, the puppet that we see on the screen looks more fake than the one from 1996 that's an actual goddamn puppet. What I'm trying to say is, out of all the CGI elements in this movie, Pinocchio was by far the worst. Like, the absolute worst out of everyone. Yes, including the fox and the cat. He was by far the worst. Every time when he's on screen, I don't believe he's there. I believe that once they finished the film, they realized that they had to put Pinocchio into the movie. So they literally had to put this film on Microsoft Paint and literally had to paint him into the scenery. That's where I got out of this movie. He doesn't feel or look like he's there. He just looks so rough, man. Like, so rough. I don't even believe that he's an actual puppet, for that matter. But it gets worse, because when Pinocchio gets to Stromboli's music show or whatever, he meets a girl who winds up having a broken leg, right? And she used to be a ballerina. Okay, it does this thing to where Disney always does with their live action movies that always piss me off. They always show the backstory of the characters, whether we want to see it or not. They're doing it with Cruella, they did it with Maleficent, and now they're doing it with certain characters in this movie. For example, Geppetto, it was shown that Geppetto had a son at some point, and I guess he was married. But then they died off screen, like before the events that happened in this movie. But they don't go into detail about what happened to his son or what happened to his wife if he had one, and they just like made it clear, like, oh, he had a son at some point, now the son is dead, now he makes a puppet and now that's going to be his son. Okay, but what happened to his son? You can't just put that information out there for the audience to see and you don't explain it to them what the hell happened. The same thing with the ballerina. She had a broken leg. Okay, what happened? How did she break her leg? Doesn't even go into detail. Disney dropped all these story elements and these hits and they don't go into detail about it. And then we get to Pleasure Island, and this is one of the things that pretty much like should have been like the highlight of the film, where it like, you know, this is where the danger actually happens, where all the boys start misbehaving, and girls too, there were girls there, all the boys and girls start misbehaving, and then they turn into donkeys and whatnot and whatever. But then, just like with the dialogue, it goes on for far too long, and it just, I at that point I was falling asleep, and I just like, okay, well, whatever. And one part of the movie that actually like floored me was when Pinocchio was starting to turn into a donkey and Jiminy Cricket comes into the rescue. All of a sudden there's these shadow creatures that appear right out of nowhere. Like, you don't know what these things are, you don't know where they come from, but apparently they assist the guy running the place to trap all the children after they've been turned into donkeys, and to, like, you know, put them to work in the mine and whatnot. Like, you don't even know like what these things are. They just appear out of nowhere, and that's it. We don't get an explanation. We don't know if they've been summoned by the devil, and it's just crazy. I'm sitting here like, what? So Pinocchio has demon shadows now? When was that a thing? And I'm just like, explanation, please? And then we get to the part of Monstro, and this is where I don't know what they were trying to go for here, because Monstro in this movie doesn't look like a whale. He doesn't look like a catfish like he does in the original book. But he looks like something that crawled out of Cthulhu's anus. I am not kidding. I have no idea what Monstro is. I don't know why they went with this design. I guess instead of trying to make him into a whale, they wanted to make him into sort of a sea monster. But you could have just made a big ass fish and called it a day. You didn't have to make him look like a huge tentacle monster thing from a Stephen King novel. Just make him into a giant ass fish. That's it. But then the one thing that pissed me off about this movie is that after they escape the fish and they get to the shore, this is supposed to be the part where Pinocchio learns everything that he does and becomes a real boy. And the whole movie ends with him and Geppetto sitting inside of a cave. Then he decided that you know, Pinocchio has always been a real boy on the inside. It doesn't matter if he's a puppet and so on and so forth. And I'm sitting here like, I'm sorry, wasn't the whole point of the journey was for Pinocchio to become a real boy in the first place? Look, I get the whole that whole bullshit about real on the inside and all that. I'm here for it, but you cannot tell me that y'all are just gonna end the movie right here and right now. We don't even know if they're gonna make it out of this cave alive, because they don't have a boat. And what's this whole you're a real boy on the inside bullshit? Nah, we've been on this journey to see if he was gonna turn into a real boy or not. If you didn't even have a child actor to literally fill in for a live action Pinocchio, like him being a real boy and shit, like, damn. Wow. Okay, you could have just like literally just cut this movie right then and there, but nope, you just went on with it, and boom, there you go. And then that's where the story ends. We don't know if they managed to find a way out of the cave. We don't know if they managed to find a way home. Jiminy ends the whole story by saying that legend has it that he turned into a real boy that day. And some say that he was a real boy all along, but I think that Pinocchio has the heart the entire time.
Whoa, I think I just figured something out, Beavis.
What?
This sucks. This sucks more than anything that has ever sucked before.
So, yeah, no, I don't like this movie. I think out of all the Disney live action movies, this was by far the worst one. and I cannot recommend this to anyone. If you are looking for a Disney Pinocchio movie, a lot of people were suggesting for a Disney live action Pinocchio movie to watch Geppetto. I haven't seen that yet. I'm probably gonna watch it later on after this, but I still suggest watching either the animated one or watching the 1996 Adventures of Pinocchio, or in this case watch the old 1970s Pinocchio cartoon, which you can literally look it up on YouTube. It's free. But other than that, do not watch this movie. Do not watch this movie. This movie is just a waste of 2 hours. And the fact that I sat down and watched it for another 2 hours just shows that I hate myself. I cannot stand this movie. And this is enough reason for Disney to stop making live action movies. But we know they're not going to stop doing that. Like, now they're making a Mufasa movie coming out soon, which nobody asked for the shit. So yeah, no, don't watch this movie. Watch the original. That's all I got to say. Anyway, guys, that's it. I'm Crazy Ken. I'm out. Jesus Christ, this movie was bad. Like, so bad.